So now that we looked at the driver program, we've also looked at the back pressure subscriber. Let's go ahead and take a look at the emitters. And these are, this is basically a Java utility class that defines a couple of static methods that will emit random integers with either back pressure enabled or disabled. So let's take a look and see what these things do. This is really cool. So make back pressure emitter is a factory method that returns a consumer to a flux sink that will keep generating random integers until we're completed. And so we'll see how this works. What we pass this thing is an iterator to integers. And this is what was returned by the call to generate random integers. So this returns a list. We use an iterator because a list is an iterable. We can iterate through it. And here's what the make back pressure emitter does. So what it does is it says sync is the flux sink, on request. This is the hook method that's called when a request is made to the sink. And what we're going to do when we're told to do our thing is we're going to go ahead and publish size elements. And size is the number of elements we're able to publish because we got back pressure enabled. And you can see what we're doing here is we are going to go through the iterator from beginning to end. If we're not done, if we have more things to iterate, we get the next item. And then we go ahead and say, hey, sync, emit this next item. So that'll publish the next item up from the publisher thread, which will then be delivered to the consumer, the subscriber thread, which will then go ahead and do the processing to see whether or not it's a random number, or sorry, it's a prime number or not. If we're either done with, if the iterator is all done, if we've finished the iteration, then in that case, we say, hey, sync, we're complete, and we break out of the loop. So that this is basically how we're going to do the back pressure. And this is an indication we do this for the right number of calls here for the size that we're given. Here's the non-back pressure emitter. So again, it's going to return a consumer to a flux sink. It's passed in an iterator that has all the elements that we generated randomly. But in this case, there is no back pressure. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the iterator from beginning to end, not indicating how many things we can emit. And we're just going to get the next item. And if we're not canceled, we're going to go ahead and publish that next item. And after we're done iterating through all the items, then we're going to go ahead and indicate that we're finished. And so this is just going to ram all the items down the throat of the subscriber as fast as it can. And it'll depend on the various overflow strategies that we set, or the overflow strategy that we set when we called the request operator to dictate what's going to happen in that case. So this is the code that's used to indicate what kind of overflow strategy we want to be used in the case where back pressure is enabled. So if back pressure is enabled, we're going to set the overflow strategy. And if we go look at the overflow strategy, you'll see that we have these 5 different options which could be set on the command line. And if we go up here, we can see what those options are. And the options are drop, which says if the downstream is not ready to receive the next event that signal, just drop it. Don't even let it get into the pipeline. Buffer, which says buffer everything if the downstream can't keep up with the rate at which it's being sent. Error, which means signal an illegal state exception if the downstream can't keep up. Ignore, which says, I don't care what the downstream wants, just go ahead and ignore request for back pressure. And that'll just basically just send it, I think, as fast as it can. And latest, which says the downstream will only get the latest signal if you have more signals than can be handled immediately. So those are the different options that are set there. So that's essentially how back pressure can be used, how the strategy can be used. And it's, in this case, set on the flux create operator, which will be used to dictate what happens if publishers go faster than subscribers.